Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a Karen and her entitled brats stay at our hotel and cause massive destruction. They almost burn down the hotel and then play innocent when the police arrive. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. I know that the term Karen is usually used to refer to just one person. In this instance though, the entire family I was dealing with was like a giant Karen. Since I don't want to get things too confusing, I will call the mother Karen and the two boys son 1 and son 2. Just know that they are all basically Karens and have the same level of entitlement and horrible attitude. Working at a hotel means that I get to deal with people on a daily basis acting horrible. It's sadly part of the job that people treat hotel staff like garbage. Most of the time it's because of poor planning on their part and just taking it out on us. Like the number of times people show up the wrong day or with a bigger group and then act like it was my fault. This family was on a totally different level and you will see it escalate far more than I would have anticipated. Anyway, it started with Karen and her two sons entering the lobby in a loud and obnoxious way. Now, both of the sons were over 18, so these were two more fully grown adults too. Karen was complaining about there not being a valet for her car and nobody asking for help with her luggage. The boys were just loudly saying that this hotel was crap and nobody should stay here. Of course I had to intervene and try to calm them down. Me? Excuse me? Did you say that nobody was there to valet your car or help with bags? There should be people right out front when you pull up. Would you like me to get them to tend to your car? Karen, I didn't pull up in the front. I was in the back and not a single person came to check on me. Now it makes sense because there's no back entrance or reason to think that you should pull up there. Me, I'm sorry about that. We can also help you with your bags. Nobody probably saw you coming from the back. I can get somebody to take your bags after I check you in. Son number 2, yeah, and I bet he's gonna want a big fat tip too. Son number 2, screw that, he should have been helping us from the start. Let's just go to our room. I started to check them in, even though I knew there might be a problem. They arrived before check-in starts, and unless their room was not occupied the night before, it would not be ready. I usually tell people this, but I checked anyway because I wanted them out of my lobby causing any problems. Sadly, no room was ready, and I had to explain this to Karen that she was just too early. So I told her that she could leave her bags here and go out for a few hours and that the room would be ready by then. She got pissed and it didn't take long for her sons to chime in too, about the long drive they had and wanting their room. I tried to explain check-in times to her, but she did not listen to a word of it. Instead, they all started talking over each other, demanding free things for the inconvenience. Now, I do have the power to do certain things if we messed up to keep guests happy. I was not gonna waste anything on these rude Karens that we didn't even do anything to. They were early and in the confirmation email we tell people about check-in times. I had to get them to stop yelling though, so I offered them some free vouchers I had for the restaurant. This way they could sit and eat and by the time they were done, the room would be ready. I don't like rewarding bad behavior, but we are not allowed to cancel a guest's reservation for something like that. And thankfully, it seemed to work and they went away until the room was ready. But then it was time for round 2. They demanded an upgraded room for the trouble and I was drawing the line at that. We are pretty strict with room upgrades and they were asking to be upgraded from a standard room to a suite for no additional charge. That was not gonna happen, but again, I did not want to make things worse, so I told them all the suites were fully booked. They could either take the room they reserved in the first place or refuse to check in. They would still get charged though, and upon hearing that, they finally agreed and went to their room. Most of the time after checking in with a hard customer, things go smoothly. People are tired and grumpy from traveling. This family decided though to go for some kind of hotel destruction record. I went off shift in the afternoon, but because somebody got sick, I ended up working again at night. It really was not the day for me. I got a call at the front desk around 10 PM and guess who it was? Not Karen actually, but a totally different person, talking about how they were on the 3rd floor and smelled smoke. I sent somebody up there to check it out and figured that somebody was smoking like a cigarette or something, or even weed. Not loud, but nothing to go crazy over. I was wrong and the employee had to pull the fire alarm because inside Karen's room, she along with her sons had started a fire. To the bed and curtains, the fire quickly spread and soon a substantial part of the floor Karen's room was on got damaged by the fire as well. Quick spoiler alert, these entitled maniacs caused over $100,000 in damages. Later, when we all stood outside the building, the police were asking questions and looking around. Karen was pissed that she heard me tell them it was her room, and I was suspicious that it was, of course, intentional. She attacked me, but since she did not have an actual weapon, she used the only thing she could grab. I was getting clobbered right in the head and face. I knew the police were about to grab her logically, but my body took over and I hit her with the force of my anger of every bad guest ever. The police had her cuffed and EMTs helping me within 2 minutes. I did not even know at first that the Karen broke my nose. Now, upon her getting hit by me, the Sons went crazy and wanted their turn to break something on me as well. They each needed like 3 cops to cuff them and keep them down because they were acting so aggressively. Once the shock wore off, I really felt my broken nose but had to wait until I could go to the hospital. I was the only higher level employee there, so my manager had to wake up and come in before I could leave. In the meantime, I gave my statements and pressed charges, the events of earlier, and watching them all get taken away in police cars. And then I finally went to the ER to get my nose reset and to make sure nothing else was broken. My manager gave me the rest of the week off to heal both physically and mentally from what happened. It took about 3 days for my mind to get back to a normal state after those events. I didn't have to go to court or anything, but I did find out that all 3 of them ended up being sent to jail for arson and drug use. It turns out that on their intake they had all tested positive for a bunch of stuff and had even more in their bags. I just wanna ask if there's any higher hotel powers out there to please not let me come across any hotel guests that crazy again. I don't know if my nose can take it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you like the stories about entitled hotel guests, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. The next one is a mother-in-law's story. It starts like this. For as long as I've known her, Suzanne, my mother-in-law, has always been horrible. A truly malicious and cold human being. She was a racist that not only despised me because of my heritage, but also hated her own daughter because she chose to marry me without permission. And this has been our life for the last 8 years. Over the years she has attempted every scheme she could think of to split us apart, from faking stories of infidelity to direct blackmail. We still see her parents often as they live close by, though it can sometimes be a little tense, especially when she is left alone with us. If it wasn't for the fact that we had a bigger house and a pool in the backyard, I wonder if we would see her at all, and the drama unfolding now proves my point exactly. So, summer kicked off in style with an early heat wave, and somehow we ended up with her parents along with half the neighborhood in our pool. Through hushed whispers, we overheard the mother-in-law talking about a party and started planning aspects of it around the pool. I knew that her 60th birthday was coming up next month, and she had said loudly and often that she wanted it to be a big celebration, though never spoken to either of us directly about what that might entail. Rather than be accused of snooping, I left them to their whispers and plotting while I kicked back in a sun lounger. I was woken up sometime later and noticed that nearly everyone had left, and my wife stood over me with her parents looming behind her. After helping with the cleanup, I walked into a conversation my wife was having with her mother, all eyes turned to me expectantly. Suzanne explained that she was gonna be having her next birthday here because it would be too hot without the pool. Her words carried a firm tone of authority. There was no question here, she was listing out facts. Retreating to a quiet corner of the house, I spoke to my wife and we were agreeing that neither of us wanted to handle her demands, though I was still left being the one to tell her no. Exiting into the yard, I found her standing poolside surveying the yard, pointing to various areas as she designated activities for her party. Without much remorse, I interrupted her speech to her husband and she turned to gasp at me for the audacity of talking over her, mouth silent but agape. I apologized but said that we were already planning a get-together with friends that weekend, so there would be no room for her plans. A lie, but one that was easy to arrange quickly if we needed proof. I expected outrage, a temper tantrum, or at least cussing, but Suzanne was surprisingly calm with the revelation. While she didn't fly into a fury, she did laugh as if I had said something funny, before then saying that she was worried I was gonna say something serious, continuing to add that our plans could be changed for her as her birthday was more important. I laughed as well, which seemed to confuse her slightly, until I reaffirmed my decision, saying that our pool was not available to her. When she realized now she wouldn't get her own way, here the waterworks and crying started. She screamed and cried that I was being unfair, that somehow she was the victim here, as if all the harassment over the years had been forgotten. Like she was a saint. She left shortly after when we refused to budge for her. The next few weeks passed slowly as the mother-in-law continued her attempts between winning us over and wearing us down for use of our pool. Each new scheme met with the same outcome, which was no. We thought by her birthday morning she had finally given up on the idea, as it was now radio silence from her. Just as I had begun to put on a barbecue out back, I heard a knock at the side gate to my yard, finding it very weird that any courier or friend would try there instead of the front door. Opening it, I was met by a bunch of old strangers, cute with presents in their hands, and at my reluctance to move aside, they asked about Suzanne and her party. Confused, I redirected them to her actual address, assuming it to be a mistake, until one person produced a small invite card very clearly labeled "Pool Party" at my address. Craning their heads to see around me, they noticed the pool and got very stubborn about being let in. My politeness was worn down, and I told them they had the wrong address before shutting the gate and going back to my food. They knocked and squabbled outside for a little while longer, but I ignored them and eventually it would seem they waddled off. Taking a much needed break from the stress in our lives, my wife and I packed the car and left one weekend without a word to her parents. Though we relented and mentioned the vacation after her mother called us while driving. With her usual charm, she ended the call quickly, not caring too much about where we were going or how long for. It was sad to see the little love my wife had for her diminished even further. The next morning we were relaxing by the jacuzzi of our rental cabin when I got an alert from my cell phone coming from the app connected to the security cameras. Opening the app, I got a video feed of a crafty old woman unlatching the lock on the side gate and coordinating boxes of party supplies. In our extended absence, it looked like my mother-in-law Suzanne had taken the opportunity to party on my property. And party hard by the number of beer crates and suspicious-looking cigarettes she emptied onto the nearby table. It didn't take long for her guests to arrive, and then the party really started without any care for the mess they left behind. My wife was understandably appalled and began to call before I offered another idea. With a tremor of sweet vengeance, I dialed 911 into my cell phone and notified my heroes in blue about the break-in, citing that I could also see drugs at the scene. This at least seemed to give them enough reason to get over there quickly, and 10 minutes later the drama unfolded. As guests scrambled at the interruption, some fell into the pool while another tripped over the patio table, breaking it into glass and splinters. It was absolute bloody carnage. After showing my wife the footage, we left the rental and returned home. The police had gone by then, but the backyard was still marked by yellow tape. If we hadn't seen the event on the camera, it could easily be mistaken for a bomb site with debris left scattered and glass floating on the water's surface. My wife got a call soon after from her mother requesting bail. She put up a good performance on how she was arrested, making no mention of the pool party or drugs, in hopes that she would believe that she was victimized and rush to her aid. While we did go over to the station, it was not to see her. After going over what had happened with the arresting officer, we instead pressed charges against Susan, my mother-in-law, as the mastermind. I waved to her from her cell as we left the building after. For the crimes of trespass, perjury, resisting arrest and possession of MJ, she was sentenced to 4 years of county jail. I guess time and max was a little optimistic for me, but given her nature, I thought she might even have thrived. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I hope OP and his wife never ever contact this woman again and go full no contact as they should. And by the way, if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much. And the next one is a story from r/am_I_the_a-hole. My husband and I are new homeowners and moved into our first home a little less than a year ago. We've had a rocky relationship with one of our neighbors from the start, an older couple. The husband is pretty chill and kind to us, but the wife has been confrontational and made sure, when we moved in, that we knew exactly where our property ends and theirs begins. We are in a city and our lots are about 2,000 square foot each, so we are talking a matter of inches that she doesn't want us crossing. When we moved in, other neighbors on the street welcomed us and also warned us about her attitude and nastiness. Basically, the point being that honestly, I'm intimidated by my neighbors and don't want to confront them directly. They got a fire pit in their backyard that's roughly 20 feet from our house. The weather has been getting nicer, so they have been using it for recreational use just to have a fire going while sitting outside and chatting. Naturally, being so close, the smoke comes right into our home, so we cannot open windows and we cannot be outside in our own yard without being covered in smoke. It has even set off the smoke detectors in our house if any window is opened a crack. I checked our local laws and any fire pits require a permit and must be 75 feet away from any structure, which is basically impossible considering the size of our houses and our small yards and can only be operated from January to May 1st. So that's why I called the non-emergency line of the fire department yesterday anonymously, and within 5 minutes they were there and it was put out. I plan to call the non-emergency number whenever their smoke gets into our house and yard. According to local laws, they will probably be fined and prohibited from having it entirely if there are multiple complaints. So Reddit, would I be the a-hole for continuing to call the fire department when this happens again to get my neighbor's recreational fire pit shut down? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think that OP is the a-hole for calling the fire department on his neighbor or not? The first comment said, not the a-hole. If they are violating local laws while degrading your quality of life, you're taking just action. Also, if your neighbor is as nasty as you and your other neighbors describe, then she hasn't earned any benefit of the doubt. Comment number 2, not the a-hole. There's a good reason for those fire regulations and includes not letting them burn down your house. That's it. And now an update to the story from OP. So I called the fire department office number specifically listed for questions and concerns and complaints on outdoor burning. I did not call 911 or emergency fire services. They sent a couple of guys over to speak with them without a fire truck. Edit number 2, edit again to make it clearer that no emergency services were used. My fire department has a non-emergency number specifically on their website to call about fire pits and outdoor burning. Also, I'm not sure why there are so many comments claiming that I'm lying about the fire alarms going off. It's happened at least 3 to 4 times. We are talking big fires with a lot of smoke in a very dense neighborhood, not a little grill. Final update. I was not expecting so many comments, but thank you. So to answer a couple questions, yes, our properties really are that small and close, exactly 7 feet from the side of our house to the fence, and the fire pit is just a few more feet back. And yes, I would want the fires to stop even if they were nice neighbors. I almost lost my childhood home to fire, so I'm super paranoid over smoke and fire being so close to my house. Yesterday's fire was the biggest and smokiest one they had yet, so I was kind of in a small panic when I called in an emergency line, and only after the fact have been reflecting and agonizing if I'm an a-hole for it. General consensus seems to be not the a-hole, even though I'm supposedly a coward for being scared of an old lady, but I'll probably talk to the husband at some point if he's outside alone. Anyway, the next one is titled, Karen claims my kid is not my kid. Let me just start with a few things for those of you who have seen my last post. I am deaf and I was adopted when I was 8.5. After my mom told me the story about my last post, I asked my dad if anything similar happened with me and him. Oh, the rabbit hole I fell into. Also note, because this happened a long time ago, words may not be exact, but I'm also saying what my dad told me. I did not know what was being said exactly. The cast is entitled Mother, EM, Embarrassed Kid, EK, Adoptive Dad, AD, and of course the star of the show, me. Story, 3 months after I was adopted and AD went out for ice cream. We were sitting on a park bench licking our ice cream. Something important is that I am very white while my adoptive parents are Asian. After a while we were playing tag. After a while of not running, I wondered where he was. I turned around and saw my dad talking to a lady. EM, why are you playing with that child? That's really creepy. Where are his parents? AD, I am his father. EM, no you're not. He is white and you're Asian. There's no way you can be related. AD, yes there is. He is my son. They went on arguing for a while and EK walked up to me. He started talking but I just tapped my ear. EK in sign language, are you deaf? Me, yes EK, cool. My friend is deaf and he taught me sign language. Me, awesome. What's happening with our parents? EK, my mom is not the nicest. I'm really sorry in advance for whatever she is saying. My dad and EM were still pointlessly arguing, but then EM said she will call the cops. EM, I will call the cops, but if you let me take the child to find his real parents, then I won't. Deal? AD, no, I'm his adoptive father, and while we are not blood related, I'm his legal guardian. Now leave us alone or I will call the cops. EM, when the cops get here, they will take you away, you predator. I always wondered why he didn't say I was adopted, but as I grew older, I realized that it was not her business. I, being the obvious child I was playing soccer with EK. EK gave me his email and my dad came over and told me cops were coming and not to be scared. I wasn't. The cops came and he was able to prove I was his child. I ended up becoming good friends with EK and I still keep in touch today. So yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, in this story I'm not exactly sure if Karen was just an idiot or a racist or a combination of both. I guess either way it does not make a big difference because she was just stupid. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.